Okay,
Welcome back.
perfect. Let's go. Which episode?
Episode 5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's episode 5 between me and you, but because I had a guest over, Ziz, last week, I named that episode 5, so now we're at episode 6.
But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we're episode 6, so let's go. Let's get
Let's
into
go.
it.
Yeah. Where to begin? Let's just yeah. Where to begin?
Still pretty epic, man, the way it started, obviously.
Yeah.
Always got to remind
But
ourselves.
just shoot a DM to some guy on Instagram and then it turns into this. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
And then also like the whole talk of like, the self improvement, the lifestyles and all that crazy shenanigans. It's just
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
And our own journeys, like even like let's just say on like even on like the psychological side and the as well as on the physical side, like through the gym. Let's just say even through like the mental rebirth process of like let's just say changing, growing, evolving, adapting to the new circumstances. Even like we've got to continually grow and adapt to our audience, and also like trying to keep focus on one sort of mission, but we've got to grow our vision with it, if you know what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
100%,
just
man. It's good to remind ourselves of how this thing started, have that reflection, that moment of like, also meditation, and then yeah, let's start this, man.
so like a
So
still mind or
yeah, let's go straight into what we wanted to discuss for this episode. So we've initially let's wanted to go over transformations, and you mentioned like Phoenix transformations earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, could you just go a bit more into that? Like, it's like
So the
when I hear
thing,
yeah, when I hear
oh, yeah.
Phoenix, it reminds me of that one movie from X-Men where I think this one character she has like literally a Phoenix transformation. She turns into like a Phoenix whatever superhero or supervillain, and then like controls everything. But that's what that's just like comic fiction, whatever, like science fiction at the end of the day.
Yeah, but also there's always a bit of truth in all that sort of stuff, and like
Yeah, of course.
even probably the most common, like you probably provide the most second common example, probably the most common example is probably from like Harry Potter with the rebirth of the Phoenix, and it's like
Mm,
the whole basically you grow, you grow, you grow. You also got to kill off like a lot of yourself like previously, and then you just got to keep on building up more and more elements for the whole rebirth process. It's like there's a lot of stuff you got to burn off. There's a lot of parts of you that become useless, but you've also got to adapt to the responsibilities of, let's just say, in our case, like obviously being a man, so we've got to provide for a family, physically, mentally, spiritually
yeah.
as well. But it's like we got to build, build, build to actually become to a point of that. Whereas let's just say ourselves, like maybe 10 years ago, like we were still very much in the early stages of like the self development, but we were like
Hmm.
we're just discovering, we're becoming like we're seeing this new vision of the world whenever we grow, adapt, like due to our own perception and based on our own life experiences. Where some of it just destroys us mentally or physically, like through our past experiences, and we're just like, this is what happened. This is what I've done wrong. This is what I've done right. This is what I could have done this and this a lot better. How can I make sure that's not happening again? And how can you analyze it to be like, okay, uh, this is how am I going to fix this from happening again, or how am I going to not allow this type of event to affect me in this sort of way emotionally, but also like you can see sort of in the soul the spiritual, like the marks of the soul, like when they've gone
Yeah,
through enough. Yeah,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I've had experiences too, like what you mentioned, like even in the last year, like when I met a few people, like initially, like I've I met with them like all over the place. Sometimes it was at work, sometimes it was at the gym, sometimes like just in the community, like local community, like grocery shopping or something, and then I just bump into them. But sometimes just that once regard, not regard, but like it's like the one look in the eye, and you can kind of like summarize the person's state, like capture the person's state, and then like if you're a really strong person, character, and even I'd say like a strong soul, uh, that look has like an impact on you up to a point where like the night of when I'd rest, I'd get like a sort of a state vision of that person. You know what I mean? Like what that person was going through, or what that person is going through. Like maybe the person is struggling, or maybe the person is like really joyful, happy, or the person is like in this state of like anger or something like that, and it kind of has an effect on you, and then you can like reflect that, you know, later. But it's also like you have to be careful too, because it can have an effect on you, in a way, like it can an influence. At least for me, like when I was young too, like my I wasn't as built and as developed as I am now, to where I can actually like handle these experiences.
what sort of experiences are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, you can tell, like,
Yeah, like I was
when you look.
when I was young, I was super sensitive as a person. Like I could have easily been influenced, let's say, but obviously I was strong enough to know what I stand for, or what my values are. But like when I was in my first internship, for example, I had this one guy who worked in IT, was really interested in like what my interests were, what my pursuit was for the internship and my project and everything. But he got like super curious and asked me a lot of questions, like into like just my whole project, my career in general, and all that. And he just had that one look in his eye where it's like, yeah, maybe it's just the way he looked, but like just that like being so curious and personal uh, about me at that time was was having like a sort of influence on me. And then like it was like getting super annoying sometimes, like because I'd be like, what is this person trying to tell me, or what is this person trying to push me like in which direction and all that. But that was just at that time I was like super young too, so I didn't really know how to handle that, and also I didn't know what kind of message or what kind of action I should take from that.
Yeah,
Because the person could have easily, like, for me, looking at it in retrospect and in a positive way, he just wanted the best for me, and he really wanted to push me to do well on my project, and he probably even wanted to help me out because he had so much experience with coding and all that, because he worked in IT, right? But just that whole energy coming from him could have been too much, you know. That's another way of looking at it.
yeah. So it didn't end up like having like a bad sort of. It ended up having a positive uh image, like more so being reinforced than, let's just say, a negative one
Yeah,
over that,
exactly.
or was it?
Yeah,
Or
in the end, it is a positive image, but because it's so like you're not at that level yet, it looks negative. It's like, for example, a person going into the gym and he's like too fat, too skinny, and he's looking at all these other guys who have like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years of experience that are all like
Plus all the
built.
people on the roids and the trend and test and whatever.
Yeah, then there's those guys too. But when you're walking in there, it's all gonna look negative, right?
Yeah.
That's like a basic example for someone to listen to. Like, just it's your first time going to the gym. You're actually taking it seriously. You have like barely any experience. You're just starting to learn. Yeah, it's gonna feel negative initially because you're starting from zero or negative. Compared to those guys. Compared to those guys out at the gym or those like girls at the gym that are like well built and strong. But it's like it's just your mindset around it. Like if you were more like if you were friendlier, you were a bit more social, you were trying to be like nice and respectful at the same time, right? Like you have to have some decent level of respect like when you're interacting with like new people, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't just be having like crazy sicko conversations initially. Like people are gonna think you're crazy in the head. But
Yeah.
like, yeah. So especially when you're starting from zero, like you're like a skinny guy or a fat guy. You're like, bro, why is this guy talking to me about like going into these weird conversations? Like, like just stick to the gym routine and just talk about the exercise. You don't have to go like on 500 different topics. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
Like
So yeah,
speed run through like the information.
then
Like
then
yeah.
you learn from those guys, and it just keeps you on the goal track, right? At the end
But
of
that's
the
also where coaches, mentors, and those sort of people are very important because they've already been through that same path you've been through, but they can be like, hey, this is what I've done right. This is what I've done wrong. This is how I can supercharge you forward.
yeah, for sure. It's good to have those people like seek for them in your whatever uh, goal or like career path.
I don't even
That's
think you need to seek for them really. They just, like, one of the quotes is like, what is it? Like, one of the things that just came to my head was, oh, what is it? One of my actual past mentors just said it's like, the mentor will seek once the student is ready.
mm, the
Like,
mental will
that's,
once the student is ready.
yeah, the mentor, yeah. Because
Gotcha.
it's like, you need to be in the right state, the right mind, the right sort of. And then once you get that sort of abundance, then you'll start getting people who are on the same wavelength as you. And then that will also like attract them to you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
100%. No, I've experienced that too. 100%.
And it's,
So
yeah.
yeah, like leading into gym, calisthenics and all that. Goal tracking, I've been seeing improvements this week. As I said, like in handstands. My goal is to do a handstand push up by mid fall season at least, or before that, depending on how many things I'm doing at the same time. But yeah, the good thing I like about calisthenics is how much value, I'm talking like abstract value, it builds on top of the physical that it's training. Like, so for example, calisthenics, it's all about initially preventing injuries, being patient, stretching, making sure your body's like gears and all that are warmed up before you're going into like that heavy intensive movement, static or dynamic, and
Yeah, like
then
that weightlifting sort of movement.
yeah, weightlifting, exactly, body weights. You can also add like what street, it's basically like street lifting at
Street
this,
gym. Yeah.
street weights, street gym at this point. Yeah, you can look at it that way. Calisthenics is when you mention it that way, it's more like you're talking about it more of like a as a sport, kind of like
Yeah.
gymnastics. You know, gymnastics is like actually a level higher. But yeah, just that the abstract value that the values that it builds is a lot. Like it puts you in a frame of mind. It's like you're not. It's not just you're
What
lifting
sort
with
of
like,
abstract value does it build?
yeah, like as I said, lots of patience, building off of momentum, like
Yeah,
using momentum to push you forward in the exercise itself, but also mentally, like the more you keep at it with calisthenics, the more you build momentum, and then you see results coming. But and the patience, because you won't see results after, let's say, a month or 2 months, like you would when if you'd lift consistently at the gym. You'd see results depending on where you are at in your, basically in your build stage, in your, if you were injured in the past, you have to fix that before you can actually start doing, like, say, muscle ups. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I
So
know what you mean.
it's also about functional training, right? Because like you're doing functional exercises that build you as a man functionally. Like you're going to be carrying things. You're going to be maybe doing a pull up. Let's say you're in the army. You have to fight. You have to go over a certain, like, uh, you know, uh, you have to be really flexible going underneath certain, like, covers or stuff like that. Calisthenics is an actually known thing in the army. Like, if you do army training and stuff, if you ever known people doing that, they do calisthenics training. It's really known. I've read books on, like, this U.S. SEAL that also his biography mentioned, like, many times he's done calisthenics exercise, because calisthenics is as basic as push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. You're not using weights. You're using your own body weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's crazy too is, like, I've known my an old man that does calisthenics in his 70s. His nephew's a Navy SEAL, and he's around our age, like, well, not our age, but like our generation, you can say. He's like 30,
Yeah.
30, 30 plus, but he has the same build as, like, me. He's like razor sharp, super, like, obviously a lot more defined than me, a lot stronger than me. He can do a muscle up and literally his feet are on the bar. Like, that's how much like intense, like just lift that he can generate, like, from his muscle up. It's insane.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah,
It's like,
the amount of resilience that he's built, like, in that army training, like Navy SEAL training, is insane. And they were talking about this thing called, there's like 4 weeks initially when you sign up. You have to go through
oh, Hell
4 weeks.
Week.
Yeah, Hell Week. You've heard of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't make it past Hell Week because of the sheer amount of, like, physical and mental toll that it puts on the person. Because physical, you don't make the cut if you've done something wrong with your body in the past. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you were lifting weights, like, or just putting, like, injections and all that, that's it. You're not going to make it through that first week. And those guys who think they can go into the army with, like, pecs like that look like, so, like, they're not real. And, like, even if they were real, like, it's not functional.
Yeah.
After a certain size, it's not functional. After a certain proportion, it's not functional.
Like
Like, it's
bodybuilders.
exactly
Yeah.
bodybuilders. If you tell them to do a muscle up, 90% of them, maybe 80% of them would fail, because the amount of like pressure that's gonna put on their like on their joints. It's yeah. So
But
yeah,
then that'd just be just
flexibility.
basic physics.
Exactly, basic physics too. At the end, it is that. Like,
But
as
they
I said,
prevented themselves from doing it. That's the fault of their own doing.
exactly. At the end of the day, like, you chose that body that you wanted, and you didn't do the research enough. You didn't inform yourself enough to be thinking, okay, yeah, maybe in 50 years it's not going to be maintainable. It's not going to be healthy even, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's why I'm on this calisthenics thing, because I know later it's not going to hurt me. It's going to benefit me later too, you know? Swimming too
Yeah, I
is
know what you mean.
sport, swimming. Like
It's just
Navy
great for the
SEALs,
body though.
yeah, it is. It's amazing. Swimming overall is the best sport.
That's when I'd
It's actually,
argue this is
yeah,
when I say fighting is minus off all the injuries.
yeah. No, yeah.
Because yeah,
If you want to fight, you have to be very like all your joints, like everything on your body has to be fully like healthy, and if not, you have to be strong. Like your joints, your articulation, mobility has to be 100%. All of that has to be like 100, because or else you risk getting exactly injured, or even like 6 months you're out on almost all your trainings. Like you can't do any movement. So fighting is risky. It's also like even like certain sports like playing football, soccer. I injured myself in the start of the year. I couldn't run. Like I love running, and I couldn't run, bro, for like four
yes,
months. It was
but
crazy.
that'd be just because the amount of strain and yeah, it's just the amount
Yeah,
of force it's put on the muscle and also like how you probably would have landed or
and I was also
who would have kicked
bodybuilding.
you.
Like I was not bodybuilding, but just gaining weight as I was, you know, hitting the gym and all that. I wasn't so much into calisthenics early, and yeah, that also had an impact too. I was like
So were
super.
you in like a bulk or
I was in bulk.
yeah?
I was at like 90 kg, and yeah, I played soccer, put so much pressure on like my joints and stuff. And yeah, it's suffered the consequences.
But that's
Yeah,
like everything in life. It's like a double-edged sword. So yeah,
yeah, exactly. You just have to take calculated risks at the end. Just know. Yeah. So that's
we
it for
could.
me. You had Muay Thai experiences too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Muay Thai is very different to boxing. I got to say that much. Um, I'm more of a punching and wrestling type of guy. I've never kicked before,
Mm,
so it's like you got to keep an eye on all eight, like because you can hit with like your elbows, your knees, your yeah.
interesting.
You can even grapple, which is I'm not used to seeing too much in fighting, which is
It's different
because
than
the refs
wrestling,
would
right?
normally just push you away as soon as that happens. So it's sort of like you've got so many other variables and factors compared to just watching this. So a lot of the boxers, you just got to pay attention to their chest, whereas in Muay Thai, you've got to like keep an eye on everything because it's like you don't know how you're going to get hit, what combo, if they're going to jump, if they're going to kick, if they're going to like put you in like a hold or whatever. It's like yeah, it's it's just it's like the amount of resilience you got to get through to get past the first, let's say, 2 months is kind of crazy because it's like it's gonna hurt. Your shins are gonna feel like they're split. Like, have you had chin on chin contact before?
Oh man, yeah, I know that pain, bro.
Yeah,
Because like
and it's
when
like
I played soccer, you have to wear shin guards. Oh
yeah,
my goodness, bro. It's crazy.
or
That
like let's just say like ab on knee or like elbow to the head or that sort of stuff.
I know it's
Yeah,
painful. I know I've met a guy at the Calisthenics outdoor gym where I live who does Muay Thai too. He recommended me another Muay Thai place in Montreal, and this guy he does shadow Muay Thai movements, like even as he's doing his like workouts, like in the middle. I think I posted a nice like clip of it on my story. Like I made a whole story on it. It got like a lot of likes. Like I don't know, but I didn't make a reel obviously. But on TikTok, it was like my first post, and yeah, it was pretty. People liked it. Had like one comment, yeah, but it was like that sport is. It feels like you have extra, let's say, armor or weapons on top of like your your hands, your elbows, and all that. Given the movements that you're doing.
yeah. What do you mean we got like extra armor, extra weapons?
Like
What
if
do you
you'd
mean by
imagine
that?
yourself having like, let's say when you're throwing those elbows, like or you're
Yeah.
doing like elbows, kind of like imagining yourself having like an extra blade or something here. Just like shing, shing. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah. It's let's just say once you get hit, especially a few times to the head, there's a few. My advice is just be careful of your head, especially with those kicks.
yeah,
Yeah. But it's just like the amount of mental resilience you got to be like to get kicked for the head and just keep on fighting or get elbowed or kneed and just be like, yeah,
oh yeah,
I
100%.
got to look like this is nothing, but this is fucking hurting. Just you got to keep on just be like, okay, just look unfazed, just keep on fighting, just make sure they drop first before you do, and then that's yeah.
Like when you're actually sparring, do you have to like make them drop, as in they have to be hurt enough to just tap out?
No, because our coach likes to focus more on the technical stuff. But against if you fight like the coach, if you fight like one of
Okay,
the guys who we fight have been like in a almost like an Australian world title. So it's like yeah, it's like because he said he didn't want to fight a guy because he didn't feel like he was going to get hurt enough. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Um, there's a lot
That's
of people that are like, yeah, they're scary, but also like once you understand how they move, their patterns, that sort of stuff, it's like it's not that bad. It's
yeah, 100%. Like you studied them as you're sparring.
yeah, but also you got to be careful of how you land. How you got to be basically keeping an eye on them, but also keeping an eye on yourself and being like, this is what I'm doing. This is what they're doing. I've got to make sure I don't injure myself, but also I've got to make sure they don't injure themselves as well. Unless it's obviously in a fight where it's like, who cares? But also, you guys are going to be bros at the end of the day after that fight.
Hmm.
I don't know. Fighting's a weird sort of sport because you can literally punch someone until they get knocked out, cold, or whatever, and then you'd just be like best mates afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're right.
that's
No,
the interesting part of like
it,
boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu. Like, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Someone can give you a bruise, like it's gonna stay on you for a week, and then next week you're like, okay, we're good to fight again.
yeah,
That kind of thing. Yeah,
and
that's
even if you think about it, Muay Thai is sort of like the physical version of like. If you think about it, Muay Thai is sort of like the physical version of like running your own business, investing, all that sort of stuff as well. Because like especially if you're like brand new to something, it's going to be high risk, high reward. That reminds me of like Muay Thai, boxing, that sort of stuff. Because you're going to be like you're just going to get fucking pummeled if you're not careful, or if like you don't know what you're doing. But it's like once you get more and more adept to it, it's like okay, I know what's going to happen now. I'm looking at the market. I'm looking at what this guy's doing. I'm looking at all these sort of patterns. I'm also building up this mental resilience of like not like having systems over emotional over like emotions and just like okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is the best strategy at the moment until I come up with a new one that works in a better system. This is
yeah,
how it's going to be managed. This is how it's going to help me over the long term, short term, and also this is for me not to do again. This is what I've learned from my previous mistakes, and yeah,
yeah. That makes perfect sense. Like you said, it builds the mental resilience
yeah,
to go into like the business and all that. Actually, I knew one guy too who actually just got into a fight, had like a cauliflower ear,
yeah,
and he has like I think he's doing like an AI business in Montreal. But when I saw his face, he's like, yeah, yeah, he just got into a fight, like or out of a fight. But you can clearly see like the mindset, like he's coming from a fighter's point of view, and he's going into the business. You know, that's how it is.
Well, the whole point is to keep that pressure up and just keep on working at it. So that's obviously like what we're doing now, what he's doing, and it's just
Yeah,
like our one rule is you got to keep jabbing, or just kicking, and just until
yeah.
they just give up.
But it's also yeah, for sure. I see what you mean. It's also like, but it's also about like you said, building systems in place, strategies in place to also know, okay, like this is where I have to defend, right? This is where I
Yeah,
have to. back off for a bit, and then just come back later stronger,
Yeah.
100%.
But it's
Yeah,
also like, if you think about it as well, like, think about the world. Like, the world at the moment is in like a time of chaos. There's fighting is also like your own little world of chaos.
mhm.
I'm just saying, like, there's also another abstract representative as well through the two of them.
Yeah, I see what you mean. No,
Yeah.
it's actually the right way of looking at it. One of the, like, maybe it could be a little too extreme. I don't know. Going into like this whole win-win mindset and that kind of thing. This abundance, mindset too, is like, if you're looking at it from a fighter's point of view, there's no such thing as win-win. It's always going to be one person winning and the other person losing, or
Yeah.
neutral, right? But
But
so
also, you
that's
can
that's
treat
the
those
difference.
losses as opportunities, and those, yeah,
Yeah,
you can.
you're building hype. You're building people have an eye on you now. When you lose it that big at that stage, people still
Yeah,
have an eye on you. So it's still not a loss at the end.
no, it's just an opportunity. You can get better, and it's just like it's
Yeah,
still like a win-win, but it's not like they win greater than what you do. But it's like, okay, I've read that wrong. I can learn from that. I can, yeah,
yeah, 100%.
like,
No, of course, and there's always going to be better when you learn from it and you
yeah.
actually apply. There's always going to be better.
Because even going back to what we said earlier, you, as a man, you're responsible for everything in your life. You've got to build up everything. You've got to. It's a constant. Your life is a constant stage of building.
Yeah, and you reach a peak in your life, and then slowly you descend, and it becomes smooth sailing after that.
But also, you got to be careful when you if your kingdom's going to be, well. Also, obviously, as we've just been saying, life as a man is like building. But also, once you ascend, you've also got to be more and more cautious because people want to steal your gold. People want to, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
you have to
everyone
build
out to
security
get you.
systems for sure. You have to build security systems. You have to know why people are trying to kill you or trying to hurt you or something like that. Know how to defend. Yeah, for
But it's
sure. I
gonna
mean,
all going to end at the end of the day. It's all your whole kingdom's going to come to a fall
yeah,
eventually.
it is. Yeah, exactly. I mean, every man's gonna die, right? At one point, like we're all limited in this existence. So just knowing how to die, how to end it. That's the key. Like,
And
just
also preparing for the future as well, for like how can you successfully like get your family in the best state if something was to happen to your kingdom or your family or even you, like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You build like contingency plans and all that for sure. Yeah. So that's basically it, I think, for now for today. I wanted to go over next week like books and quotes and all that.
I'm